Another beautiful article saying people with anxiety report better sleep on days they use marijuana compared to alcohol or nothing at all. I love these new studies coming out. Keep them coming. Let's look at it. People with anxiety experience better quality sleep on days when they use marijuana compared to days when they use alcohol or nothing at all, a new federally funded study has found. For the study, published in the journal Drug and Alcohol Review, researchers at the University of Colorado, Colorado State, and University of Haifa analyzed the subjective sleep quality of 347 people who reported using cannabis to treat anxiety. They wanted to understand the different ways sleep was affected by the use of marijuana, alcohol, neither, or both on a given day. To that end, people participating in the study were asked to fill out daily surveys for 30 days, recounting their substance use and subjective sleep experience the night prior. Researchers compared outcomes from non-use days, cannabis-only days, alcohol-only days, and co-use days. Compared to non-use, quote, participants reported better sleep after cannabis use only and after co-use, but not after alcohol use only. The authors, who received funding for the study from a National Institute of Health grant. This is an example of the kind of studies that are going to come out as we get grants and money for federally funded cannabis or hemp cannabinoids CBD research. This is exactly what it's for and what's intended for. I know this for true. I don't drink anymore, but I know this to be true where when I did drink, I would always make sure I smoked before I went to bed because for some reason I woke up with either a less of a hangover or no hangover at all. And I'm sure you've done that. And let me know if you have. Do you drink? Do you not drink? Do you smoke cannabis to help alleviate your headaches and your hangovers? Let me know. I did, but I don't need to anymore. Now I just wake up fully rested. The study also identified a relationship between the frequency of marijuana and alcohol use and sleep outcomes. People who used the substance more frequently reported greater sleep quality on days when they only used cannabis compared to less frequent marijuana and alcohol consumers. The study's utilization of naturalistic data among individuals with anxiety symptoms replicated previously reported experimental findings among individuals without sleep and anxiety problems that overall, cannabis is associated with higher subjective sleep quality, the researchers said. Quote, the results expand upon other research to suggest that more frequent use of alcohol and cannabis may moderate daily associations of cannabis use and sleep, potentially through pharmacokinetics, and cross-sensitivity. If you think I'm messing this up, I apologize. But it's pharmacokinetics and cross-sensitization. You get it. You can read it. That's what I meant. That's a tough word. Don't read it when you're stoned. The authors said their hypothesis about the impact of marijuana use alone on sleep was, quote, confirmed, unquote, as both cannabis use only and co-use days were linked to higher perceived sleep quality versus non-use. Sleep quality was notably better after cannabis use only days compared to co-use days. These findings add to the emerging evidence of cannabis's sleep-enhancing properties and that it's just better than alcohol in every way, shape, or form. While alcohol has also been found to help people fall asleep or just black out, the study supported prior findings that it does not enhance overall sleep quality, especially compared to cannabis. Interestingly, the research also signaled that the sleep effects of cannabis alone did not weaken over time for people who reported more frequent use of marijuana and alcohol, suggesting that tolerance didn't influence sleep quality. That's good to know. In fact, results suggest a contrary pattern. Quote, better sleep quality post-cannabis use days compared to non-use days among those frequently using cannabis could be due to higher doses used by frequent users, potentially tied to better sleep. However, understanding various cannabis combinations and ratios as sleep effects remains limited, requiring further research. So we've talked about CBN. I'll do a video about CBN in sometime in the future. CBN is another cannabinoid. It's the heaviest cannabinoid, sedative cannabinoid in the endocannabinoid system. So it feels heavier. It's meant for heavy anxiety and sleep. So when you combine CBN with CBD or Delta 9, it's got a more analgesic, that's that word again, it's got that effect where it really, really kind of helps you fall asleep. The simple slope analysis showed that none of the slopes differed from zero, and thus that there was no difference in sleep quality after no use days across those who use cannabis more and less frequently. This refutes an alternative interpretation of the interaction effect, namely that people who use cannabis more frequently experience withdrawal-related sleep problems after non-use days. I was getting ready to ask that because whenever I don't smoke, it feels like, unless I'm tired and I've been busy, but if you just don't do anything and you stop smoking, you got a lot of energy. You still got to get it out of your system in order to sleep. Because the study included data on people who use different types of cannabis, both in terms of dosage and product selection, researchers said that there are open questions about how certain concentrations and cannabinoid profiles affect the results, so future clinical trials could help fill these knowledge gaps. There is an urgent need for experimental studies investigating the effects of cannabis and alcohol on sleep. Our studies suggest that cannabis may exert positive effects on subjective sleep quality among individuals intending to use cannabis to cope with anxiety. Day-to-day alcohol use may have less of an impact on sleep in this population when used without cannabis. And when co-used with cannabis, alcohol may mitigate positive sleep effect of cannabis. Further research is needed to investigate the moderating role of frequency of cannabis and alcohol use on more immediate associations between sleep and substance use. This is particularly pressing in populations seeking to use cannabis to cope with anxiety, as this population may be prone to alcohol and cannabis misuse and sleep problems. Relatedly, a separate recent survey of cannabis consumers with sleep issues found that most preferred the marijuana use instead of other sleep aids to help go to bed, reporting better outcomes the next morning and fewer side effects. Smoking joints or vaping products that contain THC, CBD, and the terpene myrcene were especially popular. Quality of sleep often arises in other studies into the potential benefits of marijuana, and generally, consumers say it enhances their rest. Two recent studies, one involving people with chronic health conditions and another looking at people diagnosed with neurological disorders, found that sleep quality improved with cannabis use. A 2019 study found that people tended to purchase fewer over-the-counter sleep medications when they have legal access to marijuana. In particular, authors of that study noted, quote, cannabis appears to compete favorably with over-the-counter sleep aids, especially those containing diphenhydramine and doxylamine, no idea what those are, just sleep aids, I guess, which constitute 87% of the market for sleep aids, for over-the-counter sleep aids. And that's how the study ends. They always just keep the best parts at the end. So if you don't have any time on your hands and you have 30 seconds to a minute to read articles, just read like the last 2 or 3 paragraphs. They usually sum it up and give you the kind of bottom line down there at the bottom line. Hey, that might be why they called it that. So this is actually a really official study with American federally funded dollars literally proving that if you have anxiety, drinking alcohol is not good for you to sleep. Using cannabis is, and significantly helps. I know a lot of people, myself included, that are very anxious, not necessarily bad anxiety like post-traumatic stress anxiety, although people have that a lot, but it's more of like an energy, like a creative energy. I want to do stuff. I just have a lot of energy. So I kind of smoke to come down to baseline and kind of operate in the normal world. I'm sure a lot of people do that as well. So when I don't smoke, I lay in bed like this and just kind of wait to fall asleep, or have to go run, lift weights, do stretches, whatever it is. But whenever I drank, when I used to drink, I would smoke all the time before I go to bed. And there was no scientific data to back it up, but I just knew every time I smoked before I went to bed when I was drinking, I felt better in the morning than when I didn't smoke. And that's exactly what this study says. So the proof is in the pudding. Trust science, right? I love these studies. I love it. Now, the alcohol industry and the opioid industry is not going to love it, but we already know that. And that's exactly why they do not want cannabis legal. So keep spreading the good news. Keep sharing these articles with everyone you know and tell them you've been doing it wrong the entire time. I thank you for joining us and stay blessed.